GM. With me now is George Magliano, Director of Automotive Research at IHS Global Insight. George, great to see you.
Thanks for having me on.
So just a few moments ago, GM's board said that it asked for Henderson's resignation. What do you think happened in that board meeting? They were doing this 100-day review of him.
I think things just came to a head and erupted. I can see two very strong-willed people going head-to-head, and two very strong-willed people in Whitacre and Fritz Henderson, who probably from day one were never on the same page. And I think that's more than anything else that comes through loud and clear here.
What do you think the future holds for Bob Lutz?
Well, I think Bob Lutz is going to stay doing what he's doing. I think if Bob Lutz's future was the CEO of General Motors, it would have been done already, and it would have been announced. I think he's got more than his hands full running the brands and getting those customers that used to buy Pontiac, Saturn, Saab, Hummer, turning them into Chevrolet buyers. And that's a big task right now.
Just sticking with the management thing, so Whitacre is in charge on an interim basis. What's the likelihood he stays on? Or there's a lot of talk of pulling an outsider. We heard Sue's report and some of the names being bandied about with Mike Jackson, just mentioned in our earlier interview with the former director, Jerry York.
Well, I could see him staying on. I mean, I think he's a guy who wants to run the business, all right? And I think that, again, that from day one, that was loud and clear with him going on television, doing the ads. I think he's a day-to-day guy, but you need to backstop him with an auto guy. I don't want to sound like a Detroit insider, but I think if you had two non-auto guys at the top, that would be a recipe for disaster at General Motors. You need somebody. If Whitaker's going to stay on, then you've got to bring somebody, Mike Jackson, Penske, somebody in that vein who has auto experience instead of somebody from outside the industry.
Who do you think is the best candidate?
Well, probably Carlos Ghosn.
Oh, doesn't he have a job?
I think so, yes. But he was interested at one time, yes.
All right. Talking about the financial prospects of GM, Jerry York also quoted as saying he sees a 50-50 chance that GM does fall into a second bankruptcy. Do you think that's a little bit too pessimistic?
I think that's way too pessimistic. We don't see eye to eye with General Motors as to how they see their share growing over the next couple of years. We have a rather conservative view of where their market share is going to wind up. But certainly they are much more viable today as far as their cost structure goes. They've revitalized their product plans. They've got a lot more to do. But the environment, while it's not going to be really great next year, it's going to be better next year than it is this year. So
and
things
they're
will
showing
continue to improve.
The November sales weren't too bad.
Well, I think the last 2 months weren't too bad, but I think the issue is they're not good enough. And that's probably another area where Mr. Henderson was probably brought to task. I think Ford has been doing real well as far as the Detroit manufacturers, and they've been really growing, and they've turned their business around in a big way. I think that's what was expected more of General Motors over the last couple of months, and it's been a struggle for them.
What kind of timeline should we expect for an initial public offering?
Well, I don't think it's going to come with, I believe that they were talking about early next year. That's not going to occur. And it's going to take probably the full year as far as that goes, because first of all, Mr. Whitacre didn't like the timeline. That came out today, that he thought that was way too soon. And you got to remember, like I said, it's not going to be a booming year, so the volume isn't going to be there. It's going to be a struggle to get that volume. You're going to have to spend more money, and probably you're going to hurt the bottom line as well. I mean, the incentives are going to have to go up in order for GM to capture that market share.
Oh, it's such an interesting story. A lot of development still ahead, that's for sure. George Magliano, though, thanks for talking us through where we are today with GM.
Thank you.